Hi guys, welcome back to Connor Takes Off. I started this trip report departing a wet and rainy Brooklyn. Whilst the weather was indeed grim, there is something rather atmospheric about wandering the city in the rain. I made my journey across to Howard Beach to connect on to the JFK air train. This flight review captures both my experience at JFK and also my business class connection through Paris Charles de Gaulle, one certainly worth sticking around for. Air France currently depart out of JFK Terminal 1, arguably one of the least appealing of any of the JFK terminals.
Hi guys, welcome back to Connor Takes Off. So join me this evening at John F. Kennedy, where I will be travelling from JFK across to Paris Charles de Gaulle on board Air France in their long-haul business class product on an Airbus A350. So I'm super excited to sample this product. I have not yet flown long-haul on Air France in business class, so super excited to see what both hard and soft product are like. I'm currently sat in the food court at Terminal 1, enjoying a delicious Dunkin' Donuts before my journey, and have to get my priorities straight, of course. But yes, shortly we'll be heading down to check-in, and then through to security and on to the lounge. So great to have you with me today, and I guess all that's left for me to do is to finish my donut and head down to check-in. See you soon.
Here is the absolute guilty pleasure in question. Give me this over fancy lounge food any day. Terminal 1 is home to mostly international airlines such as Air France, Eva Air and Korean Air, to name a few. You also have some really rare airlines departing from this terminal, airlines such as Air Senegal and Air Serbia. Pretty cool. This terminal does a wonderful job of making a rather large space feel somewhat claustrophobic. Air France depart from check-in area A. Check-in here was super speedy. Here you can see check-in for La Premiere. A man can only dream. Security is accessed by skirting either side of Turkish Airlines check-in. Again, this was a tight squeeze. Once through security, it was time for me to make my way to the far corner of the terminal towards the Air France lounge. Security for this evening had been surprisingly manic. There was, however, a separate lane for first and business class passengers, which is not always a given within US airports. I don't know what it is about the Air France lounge entrance, but it somehow seems as though it isn't going to open. Once inside, this lounge is everything you would expect from Air France. Stylish, elegant, refined, and simple. It has the ability to create a feeling of significant space on a relatively small surface area. I must also add that the staff in this lounge were 10 out of 10. At the far end of the lounge, there's even a Clarence spa facility where passengers can access complimentary treatments. I'm afraid to say that this is where the review went somewhat downhill. I'd had a long day in the city, and so was really looking forward to freshening up with a shower before my flight. This being one of two shower rooms, from what I could tell, had no running hot water. Worse again, shower room 2 was pretty grim. Yes, those are other people's dirty towels on the floor. I revisited around an hour later to see if it had been cleaned, and to my dismay, it had not. Not a good look. Having skipped my shower, I headed up to grab a bite to eat. I wasn't sure if this would be a sleeper service without a meal served, so I got stuck in. The selection here was vast. Everything appeared to have a unique French influence, which was cool. The drinks on offer were also great quality, most notably the delicious French wine. I wasn't familiar with most of the spirits brands on offer here. I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. This was the first of my courses within the lounge, potato soup, which unfortunately did taste as questionable as it looked. Something about the soup tasted off, kind of like when you leave your carton of milk out of the fridge for too long. My rather questionable facial expressions speak 1,000 words here. For my next sitting, I opted for this delicious chicken and rice dish with a side of a rather random croque monsieur because why not? When in Rome, or should that be Paris? Last but not least, I went for a rather gluttonous dollop of this gratin dauphinois, perhaps one of the richest, most delicious things I have ever eaten. With the cream and cheese combination, I may as well have spread this directly onto my hips. It was now time for me to board my flight. In advance of the trip, I had been made aware of a dreaded equipment change. I had spent such a long period of time trying to find a specific A350 config featuring the new Air France business cabin. To learn that I would now be travelling on an older config aircraft was pretty heartbreaking. As you'll shortly see, whilst there is nothing particularly wrong with this configuration, the product already feels dated, with this aircraft only being 4 years old. Air France apparently have no plans to retrofit this aircraft, resulting in a really inconsistent product. Not ideal. Boarding for this flight offered premium passengers their own jet bridge. Excuse my little trip there. Here you have my seat 1J. I had originally booked the first row to access a huge bulkhead seat in the new business cabin. However, the equipment change had made this irrelevant. The staggered nature of this older cabin means that the first row is incredibly close to the galley. Good grief, at times I felt like I was helping the crew to prepare dinner. I guess I'd advise always listening to the wisdom of Seat Guru, who states that the proximity to the galley may indeed be bothersome. We pushed back on time and were swiftly en route to Paris. Departing from JFK always feels so glamorous at night time. Seeing all the heavies line up for departure is heaven for an AVGeek like myself. Post-departure, champagne was the only pre-dinner beverage on offer. First world problems, I know. It is a little assumptive that this is all people want, however. I couldn't help but feel this is just an easy option for the crew. Menus were handed out, and having overeaten in the lounge, much to my dismay, the post-departure offerings were bountiful. Considering this was a late departure, this menu did indeed have a beautiful, elegant selection of food and wine on offer. Feel free to pause the video here to inspect further. Here you have my first course, the starter, which was lobster. I don't love getting my meal all on the one tray like this, but maybe I'm just being a diva. For my main, I opted for the shrimp. Whilst I do feel this portion size is somewhat small, for a late night departure, this was plenty. To drink, I opted for a simple gin and tonic. It felt somewhat that wine was perhaps the only expected choice here. When it arrived, it unfortunately was pretty grim. Served warm with no ice. Not great. Before getting settled, I popped to the bathroom, which was relatively standard. I was a big fan of the Clarence products they had on offer. It's lovely to see a national carrier celebrating homegrown brands. Now back in my seat, I got stuck into the IFE, which was strong. As you can see, by the extent of which I'm struggling to use it, the screen was super responsive. There was a wide range of local and international shows, documentaries, audio and maps. They also had incredible live cameras on the outside of the aircraft, which I will show later once the sun is up. Here I am getting cozy for the evening. See you in the morning. I woke up about an hour west of Paris. I managed about 3 hours of sleep, which wasn't loads, but was enough to keep me going. This is a view of the small business cabin from behind. You can really see the staggered formation here that I had referenced earlier.
D'ici quelques minutes, la ville de Cherbourg, et sur la droite, la ville de Grandville.
At about 40 minutes out, we were served breakfast. This certainly was breakfast with a view. I opted for the continental option. Whilst the pastries were unsurprisingly delicious, I couldn't help but feel that for a ticket with this price tag, this felt a little cheap. I'd shortly be arriving into Paris Charles de Gaulle. I still had an onward European connection to Dublin, giving me the chance to now fully review the on-the-ground airside business class experience. Whilst I certainly hadn't been blown away by the somewhat frosty service nor the hard product thus far, Air France in their hub airport were pretty impressive, definitely worth sticking around for. Paris Charles de Gaulle Terminal 2 is divided into subsections listed by letter, 2A, B, C, etc. I'm not 100% sure which one I had arrived into. I just knew I needed to head across to the K gates at Terminal 2E. I must be honest, I don't think I ever fully appreciated the scale of Air France's long-haul operation. Look at the sheer number of heavies getting ready for departure here. Truly mind-blowing. I had now arrived at Air France's business class lounge here at Terminal 2E. Similar to JFK, this lounge was super practical and elegant. Air France really put their best foot forward here. This lounge is flooded with natural light and is a really nice space to pass the time. The food and drink on offer were beautifully presented. Whilst I was neither hungry nor thirsty at this time of day, I had to respect the effort of this central display. By this stage, I really needed to have a shower. I felt really gross. Fortunately, as expected, this hub airport lounge shower facility was spotless, as it should be. I felt a million times better after getting washed. It was now time for me to head to the gate for the final leg of my journey. I'll shortly be uploading some content of this European business class experience. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled. This had been a very interesting trip on Air France. The trip had been efficient and slick, but it fell down in some very simple places. The inconsistency of the hard product, combined with somewhat lacking special service, would sincerely influence my decision on whether or not to fly with them again. Thanks for watching.